I'm Dean Newland, and welcome to the Business of Intuition, where I coach, facilitate, train, and speak on the hard science and meaningful experience of intuitive leadership in business, so you can make better decisions, forge real connections, and creatively solve problems to amplify your impact and simplify your life. Welcome to the Business of Intuition. We are all selling something. A new car to a family of four, the mission of a nonprofit to a donor, a prescription drug to a patient, coaching services to a high potential leader, software solutions to a hospitality company, or, like my next guest, a mortgage to a home buyer. When I started Mission Facilitators International, selling took place over coffee or a few drinks or as a presentation in front of a room of would-be customers. Today, most of us spend many hours on our phones and computers ingesting information. We are being influenced by what we read, hear, and see on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. The goal in selling hasn't changed: to develop authentic, lasting relationships with our customers by providing great products and services. This is true for the physical and the digital worlds. My next guest on the Business of Intuition says that we need to develop marketing strategies and sales strategies for both face-to-face interactions and those that take place online. Alec Hanson is the Senior Vice President of Production for loanDepot for the Pacific Southwest Division, overseeing approximately $8 billion in annual production. A dynamic coach and thought leader, Hanson believes in leading and coaching within the trenches of the mortgage industry. He is the creator of loanDepot's Modern Lending Playbook, a strategic and tactical tool designed to equip, train, and evolve the traditional mortgage professionals' skill sets into the modern era. Alec is also the author of Bypassed, a modern guide for local mortgage pros left behind by the digital customer, which details the systematic approach to help mortgage professionals succeed in the digital world. And he's also the host of Modern Lending Podcast. Alec Hanson on the Business of Intuition. Well, Alec, it's great to have you on the Business of Intuition. And I wanted to start you off with a question that I think will create some interesting discussion. I'm thinking about, your industry, the mortgage industry, and it makes me think that in some ways, one could say that the mortgage industry is sort of like the canary in the mine. That from an economy perspective, if the mortgage industry starts getting hit, then other industries start to feel it downstream. So you become sort of the sense of what's coming. Where can we see things happening? Since our biggest purchase as individual people is going to be obviously our house. It's going to have a huge impact on us and also the economy. But so if that's the case, then we also have this other thing going on, which is COVID. Yeah. And we're just kind of going through that process. And then as a result of all of this change and craziness, we've got this condition that some are calling the Great Resignation, where 50% of most employees are actively looking for another job. And I'm thinking about us, I'm going like, boy, is this like a big, huge stress test like they do with banks? That what are we supposed to learn here regarding everybody trying to find new jobs and the whole pandemic thing? What is your sense when you take a look at the last couple of years? What's COVID trying to teach businesses?
It's an evolution of society. And it's funny, I studied cities, how they were built and developed in college as a kind of an elective. And one of the interesting things that we see in cities is you have, the East Coast cities, New York, which was built around horses, right? Built on horses. Everything was in a 2-mile radius, and that was the city. And then you got the railway cities. You got Chicago. You got the kind of the suburbs along the railways as railroads became transportation. And then you've got the best example is San Diego, of a car-based city. And now we're actually literally in, I don't know what to call it, the digital city, but we're literally in another evolution where people are realizing I don't need to live anywhere near these areas anymore. I can live anywhere I want and do my job in some fields. And so you're seeing this great resignation, but it's just this flex of the society evolving and changing, in my opinion, into this digital adaptation. So I think we don't know how we're going to deal with it. It's fascinating. It's rocking lots of industries. I can tell you from a mortgage perspective, salespeople in my industry have gone everywhere. They don't need to work in the city they used to work in. They can be in another state, still maintaining relationships, doing business, using the internet, et cetera. So it's wild.
Well, yeah, you're right. Because I was thinking like a lot of the companies we deal with are now actively talking about return to work, which is the wrong phrase because people were working
We're
before.
Still working.
I'm still working in my pajamas at home.
Yes.
In my little home office, I'm still working really, really long hours. But now maybe we're going to go back to brick and mortar. But a lot of them, in terms of like even hiring practices, and we're working with companies who've got like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 open recs. They're just trying to find people as fast as they can. They're now having to open up their policy to say, maybe we don't have to hire just from within our city or our state. Maybe we could hire somebody from New Jersey into a business that's based out of Phoenix. And I guess your point is well taken. Everybody's become so agnostic in terms of where they live that work can happen anywhere. How has all of this affected the mortgage industry in particular, when in the past, it's who I knew? I mean, I remember when I was starting off my business 30 years ago, we would go to these things called lead clubs, right?
Yes.
And you go and hand out business cards and hey, let's talk. What do you do? What do you do? Oh, I'll provide you to lead. You provide me leads.
Yes.
So it's all relationship based, right? And it's like who I knew in my own community. What's going on right now with this whole digitization and this agnostic location by which I live? How is it affecting your industry? And any lessons learned that you might give to others?
I mean, we're in the mix of it right now. We are in the mix of it. And what I mean by that is salespeople, for example. We know that salespeople thrive in community with other salespeople. They want competition. They want to have camaraderie. They need to have the energy to be around each other. We know this. But at the same time, they may have moved into a different state. They may have moved into a different place. Maybe they don't want to come in. Maybe they don't like COVID and they're reacting that way towards it. And so and then you got support staff and operations and fulfillment staff. Well, some of them are way more productive at home. Some of them are not more productive at home. And so it's just uncovering how to manage through this. It's a mess, but it's a fun mess because we're all in it. Every company in lending and in many industries are in this same mess trying to solve, okay, do we come back to the office? What does that mean? Do we shed our office space and just save that cost and put it somewhere else? What does that mean? And what does community mean when there's digital, when we're in this digital space? How do you build digital community? Is it the same as physical? What does it lack? What does it not have that the physicalness brings? And I think we're trying to figure it out. But I know for a fact that salespeople thrive on being around other salespeople and being in community. And it's how to figure out how to balance that now that we're very digital.
Well, I know you work on a national basis with your organization. Yep. How do you then build community with salespeople who like to be able to compete and see each other?
So it's leveraging new tools. So a silly example, Facebook groups. So Facebook group where we can all be connected. I can show up on video every day there for my team. I can give a message of confidence or market updates. And they can kind of connect in and see that, engage on that. Now, it lacks the physical, real connection. They're watching a video of me. That's not the same thing as me in their office that day, talking to them, being in community and taking them to drinks that night. So I think there's steps and places to play that are important, like leveraging video, leveraging community technologies, leveraging social. But I don't think it necessarily replaces the physical. I think it just kind of augments the experience. But if you don't do that at all, then you're not physical or digital. I think it's a huge problem for culture.
You say we don't do that at all. You mean like if you don't lean into either the digital and the physical interactions?
Yeah. I mean, I think that if you're just trying to do business the old way and nobody's coming in the office and you're sitting there by yourself, it's a problem.
I see. Right. So you're saying that you don't just rely on the old format of being able to network physically. You're going to have a digital presence.
You have to. I think at least in my industry and leadership and in sales, it's non-negotiable. You got to figure it out.
So we still take people out for drinks, so to speak, but we also have a Facebook page. We still, take someone out to dinner, but we still do something on LinkedIn.
Yeah, or even more simply, like leveraging a system like Microsoft Teams, where you can all be in a group chat hanging out all day, and people can fire off questions and ask things, almost like you would do in the office back in the day, where you'd walk in and be like, "Hey, who knows how to solve this problem? I got this situation with this customer." and someone could be like, oh yeah, I've done it this way. Now it's kind of these digital places on screens where we can still be connected, still be engaging with each other, but it's not physical anymore. So it's a balance of both.
Right. So is your sense that if we had just the virtual, it would not be complete for people?
I really believe that. And I've seen it over the last 18 months with COVID and all this stuff. I think there's a craving for human connection that we don't get with all over digital. It can't replace it. And I've been watching, what I would call a decline of sales cultures across groups and organizations because they're not together physically.
Got it. So then what's your point of view on all this? I mean, what's your message? What's your purpose when it comes to an industry that is moving so much more digital? I'm going to go check out a loan. I want to get a loan. I'm not going to call up my buddy down the street because I'm in my pajamas at 3:00 in the morning, got a bag of popcorn in my lap. It's easier just for me to go online. I mean, what is your solution to all this, especially in your industry?
So simplistically, if you're a mortgage sales professional today, a local one sitting in a community like down the street from you, Dean in Oregon or whatever it is, and you want Dean to call you, and he's not going to go out in the street. He's in his pajamas. He's hanging out. He's sipping tea. Then you need to be where he is. And if he's on digital platforms, if he's consuming content on YouTube, if he's on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok, then you need to be in that community with him, or else he won't call you. You won't call those people. You're going to go to whatever's easiest, what's in front of you and what's on your screen.
Understood. So, and how much, I mean, I'm getting into the practicality of this, but how much, I mean, like you would say in the old days, if you will,
the glory days,
hit the streets, get in your car, go out and meet people, right? It's always get out of the office. If I see you in the office, you must be doing something wrong, right? You got to get out and meet clients, right? That's the whole mindset. But now you could almost say, hey, I'm spending an hour or 2 hours a day on social platforms. That's my work that I need to be doing. Is that what we're now seeing? And is that how people, certainly in sales, need to be spending more of their time?
I think at this second, in my experience of what we're dealing with, it's both. You have to have a digital strategy. You have to, of where you create connection, where you are with the human beings out there, when you're engaging with your past customers and referral partners. You have to have a digital strategy. But if you just say, I'm no longer going to have a physical strategy, I think you're missing out on the opportunity that still exists in that space today. And I don't know how far we're going to go either way. I don't know if it's going to go so digital that the physical is going to be irrelevant, because I still think there's something there. But I think that's how I describe it today. And that's how we attack it today.
So again, maybe way too in the weeds with you, man.
I love it. Let's go wherever you want to go.
So, but I was thinking in sales organizations, you've got all sorts of metrics. Salespeople love to measure their behaviors, their activities, and they create a whole algorithm to say, if I have these many phone calls, it's going to result in these many face-to-face meetings, which is going to result in these many proposals, and this is my, my close rate, right? And so then we build this whole sales process around a funnel, right? You make these calls, you're going to get these appointments, and right? And then if you understand the metrics, you understand the algorithm, it's a numbers game, right? And in some ways, I understand relationship is extremely important. That's the grease that makes all this happen. But numbers are kind of the way people see things. How do you measure the activities in a digital world that can then relate to a closed sale?
So you can. And I don't mean through paid advertising, because that's obviously something you could do. You could put an ad out on Facebook, and then you can you track clicks and click-throughs and blah, blah, blah. Yes, you can do it through that way. But the organic stuff is where it gets a little hard. How do you, if I put out a video a day on Facebook, how do I know that's actually doing anything for my business?
Right.
So here's how you do it. You have to start with a reframe of the platforms. And I talk about it with this concept called ICE, identify, connect, and engage. And ICE means, is your quote digital community, audience, whatever, are they the people that you want to be in community and influencing and in relationship with? So in lending, for example, simplistically, let's just take all my past customers and all of the realtors in my community. So a good loan officer who's been in the business, 3 to 5 years, probably has 1,000 to 2,000 past customers if they're good. And let's say there's the best realtors in my market there's 150. Okay, so am I connected with all those people on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn? Let's just start there. Do I have a friend just use Facebook? Or Dean, are you and I connected on Facebook? Meaning, if I post a video, could you see it?
Right.
Because if we're not connected and I'm putting a video out on Twitter every day, no one cares. No one sees it except my mom, and she gives me a like. So you have to understand, do you have the audience and community? And if you don't, then you need to start building it, and we can track that. I literally can hand you your past customers and the top realtors in the market. We have the data, and I can watch you add them on these social platforms and connect with them over time. So now I've got a physical metric I can track. How much is your community growing? And it should grow every single month. The more loans you do, the more customers you meet. Now, engaging with them and their content is kind of the old school realtor pop buys. So I'd go walk. If you were a realtor in the glory days and you're having an open house on Sunday, I'd walk in there and talk to you. Hey, Dean, Alec, nice to see you. Now, you don't give me a deal. There's no metric, although I can track that I did it. I showed up, I shook your hand, but I didn't get a deal from you. But I built a little bit more of a relationship with you. And the next Sunday I pop into your house again. And the next Sunday I come in again. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, this guy's harassing me. And eventually you're going to take a meeting with me. You're going to tell me you don't like me and to stop coming after you.
Yeah.
Okay. So on social now, I can do the same thing with E and ICE, which is the engage part. I can spend 5 to 10 minutes sipping my coffee, being a great human being and encouraging, connecting, and engaging other humans on those platforms. The people that I want to build influence with, my past customers, my realtors. I don't want them to forget me. I don't want them to call up Quicken. I want them to remember that I helped them. And so if I see their post and I see your dog in the background and I give you a comment and I give you a high five, or your kid scores a soccer goal and I'm there cheering with you on Facebook, we're connecting, we're building relationships. And again, I can track that. Now, my message, I'm going to put a message out. I'm going to put a video out. I'm going to speak into the world now. And I'm building a community and I have connections and I have relationships. And now I put a video out saying, hey, we have a new product that just came out. It does this, this, and this. You can buy a $1.5 million house with 3% down. Okay. Wow. That's crazy. Maybe I should go talk to Alec again. Now I can check views on the video as a metric. How many views am I getting? I can check vanity metrics, which I don't coach into, but I can check likes and comments.
Sure.
Fair enough. But I can also start checking now results if I put out content that has results in it or requests for results in it. And this is the difference in campaigning on social media versus just posting. And so I have loan officers running campaigns, and a campaign looks something like this. Hey, hey, everybody, my goal for the next 3 months is to host a first-time home buying seminar here at this local restaurant. It's all you can drink, brunch, and learn. And I want to get 5 families there for a first-time home buyer seminar, old school, right? Let's get physical again. And so I'm going to put out a video every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on tips for first-time home buyers. And there'll be a link for the sign up for this brunch and learn. It's totally free. And I'm co-hosting it with my best friend, Realtor Joe, over here. They can run those 12 videos over 3 months. And then I can find out, did they get 5 people to their meeting? Did they not? Did they get any leads? Did they get any loans? And now I can start tracking activities directly to leads, directly to customers. And then we can go back and understand what's failing, what's missing, what's winning. Hey, this one video you did about down payment assistance had a ton of engagement. And this one video you did, no one cared.
Right.
Okay. So let's play here. So, I mean, this is a whole new game.
Right.
The whole new thing.
It makes sense. And then it could, of course, hop from the digital into the physical, as you had said.
And back and forth. Because I can go film my first time homebuyer seminar and put that on social.
All right. So this is an old school perspective, right? And I'm also the guy that is the salesperson personality that likes to be engaged with people, right? I guess that's my personality preference, right? So, but my curiosity is for anybody who might relate to what I'm saying, whether it's in your industry or not. Alec, I get it, man. It makes a lot of sense. I get it, but I just don't like social media.
Yes.
It takes time.
Yes.
It is boring.
Yes.
It is non-human. I'd rather go out and take somebody out for a glass of wine or coffee. That's where I get fed. That's why I'm in this industry, is people.
Yes.
And then, so what's your answer to the guy like me who would have that perspective? Sorry for throwing that one at you.
No, I love it. And here's how I'll frame it up. Back in the glory days, if someone would tell me, hey, Alec, I'm going to be one of the best loan officers in the industry, but I'm never going to talk to realtors. I hate realtors. I don't like them. I'm going to go after financial planners, divorce attorneys, all these kind of fringe referral people who could send me deals. And I go, that sounds wonderful. You're never going to be very successful because the realtors control influence. The realtors control lead opportunity. And if you're going to ignore them, you're never going to be as successful as you're capable of being. Now, fast forward to today. Alec, I'm not going to go on social media. I hate it. I hate the people there. It's toxic. It's fake. And I say, you have a misunderstanding of the platforms. That's where the people are. Challenge anybody to hold their phone up and show me how much screen time they get per week. I do it all the time.
It's huge.
It's gigantic. And I go, what platforms are they on? They're on the big social platforms, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and even TikTok, maybe Twitter. They're on these platforms. And what are they doing? They're consuming.
Yep.
They're not all posting about their freaking breakfasts and their amazing lunch and foods. They're consuming information. They're being fed stuff. And yes, is there BS on these platforms? 100%. Are there people that don't understand them, that are thinking they're influencers and doing dances? Yes, it's gross. It's stupid. But you get to block those people, get them out of your life. Don't the political rants, delete those people, control your community. Yeah. And then realize that if there's people there consuming something, you have an opportunity to put sales and marketing and prospecting, information, education, entertainment in front of those people, assuming they're your right audience.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't replace the you and I going out and getting a glass of wine and having a real talk, but it's marketing.
Yeah. No, and I hear what you're saying, and I totally agree. This is the world in which we live, and if we're going to be successful, we're going to have to play in this space. Yeah. On the other hand, one of the things that I have noticed is, especially like when I'm looking at my 21-year-old son, he grew up in this space. I mean, it's part of his identity, his extension to connect with people. We were just talking about it today, over breakfast, that for a while he got off of one of the major social media platforms. I think it was Instagram. And he realized there's all these friends of his that haven't been able to connect with him. So now he's back on. He's going to do a better job of, sorting who he wants to connect with and who he doesn't, which was the reason in the first place why he wanted to get off, right? Yeah. So he's choosing who he wants to connect to, but he's going to get back on so he can connect with the people he wants. It's a great way to sort of, think about how he connects, and he's really used to that. He's familiar with that. So it's his way of socially connecting to people. I have some of that, but not nearly as much as he does, because of my age and because I just didn't grow up in that. Yeah. Can you hire this stuff out? Can I have somebody on my team? I'm a big company, small company, doesn't matter. Yes. Who can do some of the work, although I might not necessarily gain. It might take energy from me to sit down on my phone and connect with people on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and TikTok, whatever. That may not be the thing that where my highest and best energy is. I need to be strategy. I need to be thinking about other things. Can I hire this stuff out and still make it authentic for those who are engaging with us?
Yes, and no. Pieces for sure can be supported and hired out. If I'm going to make a piece of video content, I can work with an agency. I can work with a creative person to help me kind of get a nice piece of content out, get my message out authentically. I think we have to be careful there, because I think humans are craving authenticity. And when you overproduce content, when it's hyped and overproduced, people they turn away from it. They want the realness. They want that gritty, the live feed. They want to have that. Yeah. And then where I don't think you can outsource is the human connection part, which is I'm going to spend time on Facebook today or on LinkedIn, and I see that Dean just put out a podcast. And he just shared it with everybody on LinkedIn. And me making a comment to you after listening to some of the podcasts or engaging it and typing that in is a personal engagement opportunity. You would see that and be like, oh, he took the time he listened to this and he made a comment about it and he made a reference to it and he shared a link to something that I might be interested in based off the podcast person I had on. You can't outsource that, in my opinion, because then it's not a real relationship with you and that person.
Point taken, 100%. I get it. I totally get it. So we've been hearing more and more about how this whole movement, this digitization movement, could become so virtual in so many ways. The metaverse, of which we've been hearing more about, where we're interacting, virtual reality goggles and,
so good.
and glasses and so forth.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Right. And I'm thinking I kind of I look at that and I can interact with that and kind of go, this is super cool, right? But do I want to live in that world? And is that where my the bulk of life's experience is going to be in a digital world, where what is to be human, connecting with other humans in this plane and space becomes much, much less as time goes on. What's your sense of that? You're studying this, you're sort of going into this world.
I'm breathing it. Yeah.
What's your prognosis, doctor? And what is your point of view on this? Do we need to, like sometimes technology happens because it can happen. It doesn't necessarily happen because it should happen.
Yeah.
Right. What's the moral imperative around all this? So what is your point of view on that?
I think what we're seeing, even through COVID, because I think COVID created a separation from our friends, our loved ones, our family, our communities, that was obviously physically related to the disease. But you talk about the metaverse and virtual reality and where we're going. And I think some of this is this buzz around the excitement of something new that humans love. But I think it's self-evident, but maybe it's not. We're physical creatures. We got skin and blood and bones, and we touch and feel. We're in the world physically. To say that we're going to go so digital where we put on goggles and I hang out with you, and that replaces the full physical connection part of our humanity, I just don't think humans will do that with that kind of insanity. I think, sure, we'll play on digital. I mean, look, Dean, you and I are virtual right now.
Absolutely.
Totally. And I'm loving our conversation. We're having, this is cool. Like I'm feeling good about this. I'm not like, oh, no, I wish I was in person. But we all know the difference when you're in person. We all know the difference of the real connection part. And so, I don't think it's going to get replaced by this. In fact, look at all the Zoom fatigue and all the insanity that's happened from COVID. Everyone's just like, oh, can we just meet in person, please?
Right.
I'm just kind of done with the digital.
Oh, and I was at a ball last Saturday for a big healthcare company that we work with down in Phoenix. And we had 780 people dressed up, tuxes, ties, long gowns.
Felt good, didn't it?
God,
felt so good.
It was just like drinking water out of the desert, and everybody was so pent up. It had been, it had been put off, canceled and put off for obvious reasons. But it just was sort of like this in our company, in our business. I'm on planes almost every week now because people want to get that back together again. We're still meeting and doing what you and I are doing, a lot of Zoom stuff, but there is this desire to be able to connect. So anyway, as you think about your industry, what are there other sort of tips and thoughts? I love the ICE metaphor, or the identify, connect, and engage. I think that's great. Any other sort of tidbits that you think that people in your industry or other industries would find useful?
Yeah, I think if I could press on people, I think we have to figure out how everyone gets a digital strategy. And that could be different for everybody, but I don't think you can just abstain. I think that's going to be hurtful to people's businesses and opportunities to just say, that's not for me, when the bulk of your customers and partners are probably there. Yeah. So I think that we got to define that. And I think that in our conversation earlier about understanding it or reframing how we understand the platforms, moving the toxicity out, coming in and contributing in a healthy way, obviously needs to happen too. Your son's a great example of, this got weird. I wasn't happy, and now I'm cleaning it up. Yeah. And I think we all have to do that. We got to clean it up a little bit and get into that space. So I think you got to have a digital strategy. And I think that also means you got to be able to put yourself out there in a position of vulnerability to meet people in that space. And that turns into video, that turns into, putting yourself on social platforms, sharing your viewpoint. And that has that's a whole thing to unravel too, because that's terrifying.
That's vulnerability. It's interesting you mentioned that. I mean, I think that when you look at just some of the social platforms, like say Facebook, for example, the first big one that came about, it seems like most people take pictures of themselves and post things when things are extremely positive. Here I am. I'm out with my kids and we're out in the sunset. Oh, isn't this romantic dinner? Arms crossed together. Everybody's like posting the best, highest of their experience, and we all kind of go, right? So you're like reacting here. This is an audio. If everybody could see what Alec is doing, he's holding his head in pain. Tell me why it's not a good idea only to post the high points in one's life.
Can we go back in time for 2 seconds? Do you remember the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People? Okay. Everyone has in sales, I hopefully has read that book. It's one of those books you got to read in sales. When we went digital, meaning social media, we forgot about human frickin' decency. Can you imagine a networking event, Dean? If you and I are at a networking event and we just met for the first time, and I walk up and I'm like, Dean, Alec Hanson, I am the best mortgage professional you've ever met. In fact, let me share my Yelp reviews with you really quick. Let me just read them to you. Hold on. I'm just going to read these to you. Can you imagine? You'd be like, what is this? What is happening? And by the way, here's the food I ate this morning. This was incredible. Did you ever, can you imagine?
That's awesome.
We've forgotten. Yeah. And so we get digital and we've just absolutely lost our minds. And I get it. We're a consumer-centric society. We want to showcase ourselves. We're very egocentric. But man, have we forgotten the basics? Did no one tell us? Why is no one saying anything? It drives me nuts that this exists. Because it's just, you're not contributing anything. In fact, you're creating a place that I don't want to hang out in personally anymore. So you're creating a negative vacuum. I just can't believe we've forgotten this. Just because we're digital doesn't mean we forget the basics of being human and networking and connecting.
I totally get that. And I really appreciate you saying that, because I think it's going to change the way I approach some of the things that I post. But in the sales environment, I do also believe that vulnerability can be useful, but you also want to be able to show yourself as a competent organization who gets results, who have other people say nice things about you, that you can deliver on your promises. And so it is dressing things up in a sales environment. If I'm going to network and I'm going to do a presentation in front of a series of potential clients, I'm going to show the best of us, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to say, yesterday, I was so scared of developing this presentation, I was throwing up out of fear. I'm not going to say that, right? I'm going to present my highest and best. So then how do you be vulnerable in a digital platform when you're also trying to sell people something?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So here's how I'm defining vulnerability in this sense. Again, back at my dumb sales brain and my own experience, it's the parallel I have. I had to walk into open houses and cold call realtors for appointments to get to know them and meet them. That's vulnerable. That's vulnerable because I walk in there, they don't know me, 23, and I'm like, hey, can I earn your business? And they're like, who are you? That's the vulnerability I'm kind of framing up when I talk about getting on video, putting yourself out on social media. Because you might say something, people might not like you. It's a vulnerable position to be in. It's not oversharing about your bowel movements for sure, which is a strategy. It's not the one I recommend. So
thank you very much. I appreciate that.
But then to your next point, when you're showcasing your services, your products, what you do, your personalities, there's a difference between being real with that and overhyping it and overproducing it. And that's the distinction where I think most salespeople have to find that line for themselves, because I need to show up. A great example for loan mortgage professionals. So many of them never talk about themselves. They talk about the products they offer, the services they offer, the company they work with. loanDepot is amazing. They talk about all that stuff, but they never say, here's why I'm in this business.
Yeah.
Here's why I'm doing this specifically with my day. Here's what I value and care about while doing a mortgage. And that's the difference, in my opinion, between overhyping your selling your pitch and being a real person at the same time.
Understood. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Good. Well, I like you. You're a good guy. We could talk all day about some of this stuff.
Absolutely.
How can people connect to you? I know you got a very popular podcast. Talk a little bit about that. I think you've also got a book that you have produced and written. Tell us a little bit about how people can connect with what you're all about.
So I'm going to get on my high horse a little bit and a little preachy, because I like this question, but I'm going to answer it for the salespeople out there, because the answer for every salesperson of how should someone connect with you should be Google. It should be your answer. It shouldn't be go to my website or here's my handle of Instagram, because what if they don't have Instagram? The answer should be, you find me on the first page of Google, because I've worked my ass off to make sure that I show up in a way on those platforms where I can be instantly connected with, found, related to, and engaged with.
Good point. I mean, it all comes back down to that.
I mean, if your customers can't find you, it's a big problem.
All right. And once I find you on, I'm trying to help you here, bud.
No, I know. I love you. I love
am
you.
I going to find you? I'm going to hear about a podcast. I'm going to hear about a book as well.
If you go to, if I have a podcast that I lean into heavily in called Modern Lending Podcast. You can find it on all the Apple and Spotify and there's I do it on video too as a vlog on YouTube. And I'm leaning into this whole conversation we've been having, which has been so fun, which is just how do we continue to evolve? What do we need to do as sales organizations? It's all about how do we continue to get better and pivot in this world. My book's on Audible and Amazon. It's called Bypassed. It just tells the story of the local mortgage person or real estate or divorce attorney or whoever they are that is just kind of getting left behind by customers who are staring at screens all day, and what they can do about that to kind of punch up, so to speak. But yeah, thank you. So those are the places to go buy my stuff or support me. And I appreciate that, man.
That's great. Well, I think you've got a really good message. And I think we all need to get, at least a lot of us need to really get much more intentional about having a digital platform and a digital presence as a part of our overall process for branding and selling. And you made some really wonderful points there. Really, thank you for your time. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, it's awesome, Dean. Thank you, man.
Yeah, great.
Well, I'm appreciative, brother. Anything I could ever do for you.
Thank you for listening to The Business of Intuition. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Dean or Mission Facilitators Leadership, go to mfileadership.com. That's mfileadership.com.